Call the meeting to order. This meeting is being held pursuant to and in compliance with the emergency ordinance number 20A16, an emergency ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during the COVID-19 disaster. The committee members who are present electronically are James Cathro, Sean Bridge, Nathan Holland, Robert Finley, Roger Schickendance, Craig Roller, Karen Davenport, and myself, Mary Catherine King. We also welcome Jim Andrews and Donna Price, as well as Karen Firehawk from the Planning Commission. As I said, Fred Missel from the Planning Commission is not able to be with us tonight. So thank you, everybody. Hopefully I didn't miss anyone. If I did, I apologize. Andy's here. And Tori's not with us tonight, but Andy's here and Carolyn. So the persons responsible for receiving public comment are the 5th and Avon Advisory Committee. The opportunities for the public to access and participate in the electronic meeting are posted on the Albemarle County calendar, and the county staff present at this meeting are Carolyn and Andy. All right, so we have 2 sets of minutes to approve. The first would be from our March meeting that we were not able to approve from in May because there was of a lack of quorum. So is there a motion to approve the March 17th, 2022 meeting minutes as presented?
Motion to approve.
And is there a second?
I second it.
And are there any adjustments or discussion?
So it still shows the March 2017, 2022 on top. So I think that was mentioned last time.
Probably, and that's probably my mistake, honestly, because I sent them out around again and I wasn't at the last meeting. So is it supposed to be the 17th? Is that right, Nathan? Do you know?
Oh, no, I don't know. If
Okay.
somebody can verify that for me.
We'll double check it.
Yeah.
Any other adjustments? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes with a correction to the date at the top as needed?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed or anybody abstaining? All right, that one's March is approved, and then I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the May 19th, 2022 meeting as presented.
So moved.
In a second.
Second.
Any further discussion or amendments or changes to the May meeting minutes? Okay, I hear none. So all in favor of approving as presented?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Or abstaining? Okay. May minutes are also approved. Now we will move on to the main portion of our meeting, which is the community meeting for ZMA 2022-000004 1906 Avon Street Extended. Andy, handing it to you.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me and see my presentation on the screen?
Yes.
Yep.
It's not in PowerPoint mode though.
Yep.
Or in
There
yeah,
you go.
Thanks.
It is now. Okay. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Andy Brattlebach, and I am a senior planner here with Albemarle County Planning Division. And tonight we're here for a community meeting for a recently submitted rezoning application known as ZMA 2022-4 1906 Avon Street Extended. This community meeting is one of the first steps in newly submitted rezoning applications. And so I will give a brief presentation on the process and review timeline for rezoning applications. And then I will turn it over to Kelsey Schlein of Shimp Engineering, who is the representative for the applicant that submitted this application. And then after that, we will have a question and answer period where anyone who's participating or listening into this meeting can ask questions either to me about the review process and county procedures, or to Kelsey about the details of her proposal. Okay. Sorry, having some troubles here. So as I mentioned, this is a community meeting. And so a community meeting's purpose is to share information about a proposed project, the development review process, and any relevant policies or regulations. It's also to solicit public input and allow members of the public to ask questions about the proposed project. And a summary of this input is included in the staff report that will eventually be reviewed by the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. In addition to this meeting, there will be 2 additional public meetings held, one each with the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. Neither of these meetings has been scheduled at this time. However, they are open to the public and there are designated times for public comment at these times as well. The community meeting tonight is really just for informational purposes only, and no decisions are made this evening, and no actions will be taken. However, at the 2 additional meetings that I mentioned with the Planning Commission and the board, there will be decisions made at those meetings. The Planning Commission will take a vote and make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, and then at the Board of Supervisors public hearing, the board will make the final decision whether to either approve or deny this proposed application. So as I mentioned, this is a rezoning application. It's also known as a ZMA, which stands for Zoning Map Amendment. And if a property owner submits one of these applications, they're seeking to change the zoning district of their property. And to do this, approval by the Board of Supervisors is required. And so this process is called a legislative review, as it does require review and approval by the board. In addition to the board, as I mentioned, the application is also reviewed by the Planning Commission, but before it gets to either of those 2 bodies, the application is reviewed by county staff and other agencies such as VDOT, the Service Authority, and the Rivanna Water and Sewer Authority. In the review, in staff's review of a ZMA or a rezoning, we look at the application and we review whether it is consistent with the area's future land use designation in the comprehensive plan and in the appropriate master plan. And so for this area of the county, that would be the Southern and Western Urban Neighborhoods Master Plan. Staff looks at whether it is consistent with state and local authority standards and regulations. And if it is in the entrance corridor, the Architectural Review Board will also review the application for consistency with their guidelines. So when it comes to zoning, there are 2 main ways that the county zoning ordinance groups compatible developments, and that is use and then massing. So the use of buildings, whether that would be commercial, residential, institutional, industrial, that sort of thing, and then massing of buildings, the size and the shape of the buildings, including building height, how far back the buildings are set from the street, the square footage of the buildings, their footprint on the site, that sort of thing. And I've mentioned that when we look at rezonings, we look at their consistency with a comprehensive plan. So the Albemarle County Comprehensive Plan establishes a roughly 20-year vision for the county. It is a document that contains overarching policies and recommendations for the county, and the comprehensive plan has been reviewed and adopted by the Board of Supervisors. And these policies, plans, and recommendations are developed after extensive engagement with community members. And so going on that, I just wanted to let everyone know, if you aren't currently aware, that we are in the process of once again updating the county's comprehensive plan. It is known as AC 44 or Albemarle County 2044, looking forward to the next just over 20 years. And so if you're interested in getting more information on this process, and if you're interested in getting involved in this process, as we review the comprehensive plan, and as the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission ultimately look at and review the plan, I've included the website for getting involved in this. It's engage.albemarle.org/AC44. And so that'll provide a lot of information, and you can also sign up to get additional information as it's available. And I think actually next week, there is an open house down at the county office building there on 5th Street, right across from the intersection of 5th Street and Old Lynchburg Road. And so if you're interested, that might be something you'd like to attend. And more information about that is also located on that website. So getting more into some of the specifics of this rezoning application that we're here for tonight, 1906 Avon Street Extended. It is a request by the applicant to rezone 3 parcels of land on Avon Street. They are requesting to rezone these 3 parcels from R1 residential, which allows 1 residential unit per acre, to R15 residential, which allows 15 units per acre. The site is located in the Scottsville Magisterial District. I've highlighted that in the graphic here on this slide. It is just to the north of the Avon Park subdivision and to the west across Avon Street from the Spring Hill Village subdivision. The 3 acres, or the 3 parcels together, total approximately 3.643 acres. And the applicant is looking to develop a mixed residential project on the site, including both single-family attached units and multifamily units. So as I mentioned, the existing zoning is R1 residential. The proposed zoning is R15 residential. And there are other zoning considerations. It is in the entrance corridor. Avon Street is an entrance corridor, and there are managed steep slopes on this property. And the figure on the right here is the zoning map. The green that's labeled is R1 residential. The orange of Avon Park is R6 residential. And then the kind of tealish color of Mill Creek to the west is planned unit development, excuse me. So future land use, this is where we look at the property as it's designated in the comprehensive plan and in the individual master plans. As I mentioned, this is the Southern and Western Urban Neighborhoods Master Plan. And so the 3 parcels that are part of this proposal are recommended for neighborhood density residential, and that recommends 3 to 6 residential units per acre, as well as several supporting uses such as places of worship, schools, other institutional uses, and small scale neighborhoods serving retail and commercial uses. So a brief timeline of this application. As I mentioned, we are in the staff review of the proposal. It is currently ongoing. And we are at the community meeting tonight. And the community meeting is one of the first steps in the review of the proposal. And eventually this application will move forward to public hearings with the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. However, neither of those meetings has been scheduled at this time. If you are interested, however, in keeping up to date on this application and to know when this application is eventually scheduled for both the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors, I have included my email address at the bottom of the screen. And so you're welcome to send me an email with your name and address, and I will add you to a contact list. And when these future public hearings are scheduled, I'll send out an update, send out an email with updates about the project and including the dates of these public hearings, how to attend, how to be involved, if you'd like to speak, instructions for commenting at those public hearings. So that is all I have for this evening. And now I will turn it over to Kelsey Schlein of Shimp Engineering. Thank you.
Kelsey, before you get started, I see that Roger has a quick question. Go ahead, Roger.
Yes, I have a procedural question. So the comp plan says that this area is neighborhood residential. And as you showed in the chart, Andy, that's designated as 3 to 6 units per acre. And the zoning request is to go to 15 units per acre. So I'm just wondering how this gets framed for the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. Do they review the comp plan intent before they review the zoning change, or does it happen in the reverse way, or just how is that sequenced, and who is responsible for making those decisions?
Yes, so as part of staff's review, we do look at what is in the master plan, how it is 3 to 6 units per acre. And as you mentioned, the applicant is requesting for more than that. So that is part of our analysis and what we provide to the staff, to the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. And ultimately, it is up to the Planning Commission and the board to determine whether that request for density over what's in the master plan is appropriate for this specific site or not. As I mentioned, the comprehensive plan and the master plan are really guiding documents. And so it's just it's one part of the overall review, and then it's ultimately up to the Planning Commission and the board to determine whether they think that is an appropriate density for this site or not. And I'll leave it up to Kelsey to explain why they have decided to request a higher density than what's recommended in the comprehensive plan.
Okay, thanks, Andy.
Thank you. Donna?
I understand, thank you. MK, I understand Evan Macbeth is logged in, but has not been promoted up to a participant. So I just thought I'd mention that. Thank you.
I'm sorry, who?
Evan, it's Evan Macbeth.
Okay. I don't see him.
He's listed as an attendee.
Okay.
Here you go. You get him?
You know, I still. Kevin Macbeth,
Evan.
Evan.
With an
Evan.
E.
Oh, sorry, Evan. Sorry. I got it now. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. All
I'm sorry. Thank you.
right, Kelsey.
Hi, good evening, everyone. And before I get started, while we're on the topic of promoting people to panelists, Carolyn, could you please promote Rachel Moon and Jenny and Don Smith to panelists as well, if you see them in the attendees list? And I'll go
Got
ahead.
Rachel Moon, but I didn't hear the other name. I'm sorry.
Jenny and Don Smith. They are the applicants and property owners.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, y'all.
I appreciate that. Okay, just going to share my screen with you all. Okay, perfect. Right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kelsey Schlein. I'm a planner with Shimp Engineering. I'm here tonight representing Jeanette Smith, the property owner and applicant for this rezoning request from R1 to R15. Also here with me tonight is Rachel Moon, a colleague of mine at Shimp Engineering. And so we are all available for questions after we provide you with this brief presentation about our project proposal. I just wanted to start tonight, honestly, initially with an apology. I was made aware that many residents did not receive the mailing notification until the 10th or 11th of this month. And I just, want to put the offer out there that this is very much the first introduction to this project. This is the first opportunity for neighbors to hear this proposal. It's our first opportunity to hear your feedback. We are more than willing to come back to an additional CCA meeting, 1, 2, however many throughout the review process before this project goes to public hearing. So I want to apologize that the mailing system took so long. They were postmarked by the date that they were required to. Just to get the letters out, we have to go through an iterative process with the county where they, review the letter, ensure that it meets all of their requirements, and then we work to get it out by the required date, which it was. And I'm sincerely sorry that it took 8 days to, arrive in your mailbox and provide you with notification to this meeting. So I just want to start off with that. And so moving in kind of into more details of the project. So just going into a site overview here, and this aerial is a little outdated, as many of you well know, from the recent construction along Avon Street Extended. So this is the site here directly adjacent to Avon Park. It's bounded by Mill Creek's open space. And to the north is 2 parcels owned by Faith Temple. Across the street is now Spring Hill Village, which is largely built out. And just to provide, I guess, a little more context, this site along the frontage of this property, the Avon Street Sidewalk project is currently under construction. So that's also just a good indicator to orient you if you've driven down that corridor recently. The construction that's occurring in this area is directly on this property. Here's just a few additional views of the property from Avon Street Extended. And going into the concept plan here. So as Andy said, the proposal is for a rezoning from R1 to R15, which allows up to 15 dwelling units per acre. But we did submit a draft proffer statement with the initial submittal, just calling out some key elements of the concept plan that we had submitted to commit to some additional requirements on the property beyond what the ordinance in the R15 district puts forth. So although the R15 district does permit up to 15 dwelling units per acre, there's a maximum density of 11 proposed on the property. And the R15 district does also permit 65-foot height by right. And we have restricted that to 40 feet. So that is just 5 additional feet beyond the adjacent R6 height allowance. And that height is specifically for these small multi-family buildings here. The other buildings are all proposed as 2-3 story townhome units throughout the property. So the primary access to the development is proposed through Hathaway Street. Hathaway Street is a public right-of-way. It is designed to VDOT subdivision street standards to handle up to, according to their geometric design standards, 4,000 trips per day. Currently at a full build out with this development and the entirety of Avon Park and Avon Park 1 and 2, the trips that could go back and forth on Hathaway Street is less than 900. So just given the design standards to which Hathaway Street was built and constructed to, it is adequate to support this additional development extending from there. I know that one main concern and from nearby residents will certainly be the access to this development and that it comes through Arden Drive and Hathaway Street. I just wanted to call attention to the effort that was made to try to find an alternative entrance to Avon Street. This project, the very, very first step in any rezoning process is to have what's called a pre-application meeting with the county. It's just a first introduction for the county to a project where they can put forth the expectations and what they expect to see analyzed in a rezoning application. That meeting was had in March of 2021, and the property owners made a diligent effort and put this project on hold for well over a year to try to work out a solution with the neighbor next door to see how an entrance could come off of Avon Street Extended. And the main challenges with providing an entrance onto Avon Street Extended directly on this property is that there's an 18% grade working up from Avon Street to where an ideal entrance location would go on the 3.6 acre property. And that also kind of just creates some missed opportunities for future inter-parcel connectivities for the 2 parcels to the north. If there's ever any future redevelopment of the church or something other than that at some point in the future. And so I do want to make it clear that the owners made a very concerted effort to try to secure an easement, secure a shared access, even acquire this parcel entirely. And that was the entire reason for the project being put on hold for a year. That could not be worked out. And so at this time, the primary access to the development is proposed as an extension of Hathaway Street, a public street. And so touching on the density justification. So, we do understand that this designated as neighborhood density residential, which is 3 to 6 dwelling units per acre. I will say, when you look at the corridor a little more holistically about what could be imagined along Avon, what was imagined in the master plan and the comprehensive plan along Avon, many of the developments that are fully built out at this point, and really don't have too much of an opportunity for creative redevelopments at this point, since they have been fully built out and developed, all developed far below the maximum comprehensive plan designation. And so our justification in asking for this is we just feel that at this particular site, we can achieve a design and layout that it isn't out of context with the Avon Street corridor, and it isn't a density that wasn't originally imagined for that corridor, especially since the recent Avon Street extended developments have developed at an average of 39% less than the maximum recommended density. So we feel like achieving, by limiting the height in the R15 district, by limiting the density 11 dwelling units per acre, by coming up with a concept design that promotes central green space. And I will call out that this site accounts for about 27% of the site is green space, which is very consistent with Avon Park 1 and 2 next door. I believe they have 25% and 29% open space respectively. So we feel that we can really achieve a design and built form that's consistent with what has been established along that corridor, and that the density on this particular site is justified, especially given how other developments have built out in the past decade. And that is all that I have for you for the introduction to the project. I know that there's a lot of questions, and so I look forward to a question and answer period. And again, I'll just iterate that Jenny and Don Smith, the property owners and applicants, are on as well to answer questions. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present this to you.
Thank you, Kelsey. I really appreciate it. I'd like to just start by seeing if any of our CAC members have anything specific they'd like to say or any questions. Roger, I saw you first.
Okay, thanks, Kelsey. I have a question about how the parking works. It looks like on the site plan that there's a row of parking that's parallel to Avon. And I was under the impression, I haven't checked recently, but I thought that the county had a relegated parking provision where parking was to go internal to the site and not next to the road. And I'm just wondering if there's the possibility of doing that, of moving that row of apartments that's inboard of that line of parking further out and putting that parking lot up off of Public Road A. Also, I'm wondering, it looks like there are townhouses on the northwestern side of the site, and I'm assuming those probably have garages underneath, and just wondering if maybe the apartments on the southeast could also have garages underneath that are accessed from Public Road A. But anyway, it's a concern about just having something that could be unsightly along Avon Street, where there's not even much chance to put a vegetated buffer there.
Sure, thank you for the question. So the reason that we designed in this initial run through of the concept, the parking this way is largely because of the grade that we're working with here. And as it slopes down from Public Road A towards Avon Street Extended. And so sloping down from Public Road A, all of these kind of small multifamily buildings are proposed with 4 parking spaces underneath. And so those parking spaces will actually kind of be below grade of public road A, with this parking lot dropping down even further. And so, to your point of relegated parking, that is a main consideration of the Albemarle County's neighborhood model principles. And with this particular site and extending Hathaway Street, we're kind of creating a unique scenario where we have to engage not only with Public Road A, Hathaway Street, but we also have to engage with Avon Street and coming up with the best design possible for that scenario. So initially, just laying this out, the grading worked well for this design, and I wanted, I guess, additional point for potential screening options. The parking at the rear, at the closest to Avon Street, at its closest, is about 30 feet from Avon Street, and at the furthest portion away, it's over 100 feet. So, definitely in those areas where we have that much distance, I think there's certainly an opportunity for, screening, landscape buffer. And as we have shown here conceptually, and I'm sure we'll get a county staff comment on this, we actually are exceeding the county's parking requirement, which permits a maximum of 20% spaces over the parking requirement. And so I think that we can come up with a solution where we have far too much parking shown per county regulations in this concept. And I think we can reduce the pavement a little bit to come up with a much better buffer to provide robust screening between Avon and the parking lot. I think it's also something, we could look at to see if we can make the grading work to move that parking up closer to Public Road A. But those are all just, things to consider and be working through as this project moves through the comment and response period with the county.
Thanks. Just one more comment, because you talked about the parking underneath the multifamily units. I hadn't realized that's what that was. Just a concern about potential design impact of that. I remember when Stone Creek Village was first built, that there was an open view to these garages. And in that case, the vegetation grew up over time to block that. But just the potential of having garages facing the street like that just increases my concern about the aesthetics of that face to Avon Street.
Thank you.
Sean, I'm going to call on you next, but I just wanted a clarification from Kelsey. Will there be a retaining wall or anything at the end of that parking lot there? Or is that going to be at grade with Avon Street?
Yes, there will most likely be a retaining wall there. Any retaining walls that extend into the managed slopes there's a maximum 6-foot height allowance there, and any retaining wall in the county is limited to a maximum of 10-foot height. So we haven't, fully fleshed out exactly what the retaining wall height is, but per county regulations, it cannot exceed 10 feet outside of managed slopes.
Okay, thank you. Sean?
Sure.
Thanks, MK, and thanks, Kelsey. I'll try to be brief because I do want to make sure we have plenty of time for public comment. Kelsey, and this is probably my ignorance, why is it a private road and not a public road?
Sure. Private roads, we incorporate them in 2 designs to allow for more design flexibility. There's always this yin and yang with public and private roads. Public roads, of course, are great because we can achieve interparcel connections, and we can the cost burden of maintenance is not on future residents. That is a county and state maintained road. But when designing public roads, it also compromises on flexibility and in turning radiuses and entrance spacing. And so the reason for the private road is just because of the threshold to meet public design requirements.
Thanks for that clarification. And is the existing Hathaway Street that's in the existing Avon Park, is that private or public?
That is public.
Okay. and this may be too far, is there plan to have affordable housing in this?
A draft proffer was presented that's consistent with the county's 15% requirement or policy recommendation, I should say.
Okay, perfect.
15% of units then built would be provided as affordable to the county standard.
Okay. And this again, my own ignorance, when you've got an HOA that's responsible for maintaining a road, clearing a road, and then you have affordable housing, do the affordable housing units get relief from the HOA, kind of escalating HOA fees related to maintenance of this? Or is it all pro rata based on ownership?
That's a good question. I mean, I think every neighborhood kind of structures their covenants a bit differently. And so I'm not exactly sure how that would play out in this situation.
Great. About how many total units is this proposed to be?
A maximum of 38.
And approximately how many bedrooms?
Three, mostly probably, 2 to 3 bedrooms.
Okay, so 80, so roughly 100 beds. What's the projection for car trips and school children?
Sure. So let me just pull that up for you. So the daily total for car trips is 210 trips, and the projections based on Albemarle County Public Schools multiplier is 6 new students total, with 3 of those expected to be elementary school students.
6 new students out of 38 units?
Yes, and that's using, we use a standard multiplier that is published based on and is informed based on the number of kids in other similar developments throughout the county. And that multiplier was actually recently updated, I want to say 8 months ago or something like that. So that reevaluation, the county has recently taken that on with those numbers.
Out of curiosity, what was it before? How much did it increase? I mean, I think we've consistently seen that whatever the multiplier was in the past has been woefully inadequate. And I mean, 6 out of 38 units here seems, I mean, based on the makeup of Avon Park right now, I mean, I would imagine at least 1 child per unit at a minimum on average. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I don't want to take up too much more time. I just want to do one more question. Let's see. Again, I applaud the effort to justify the density increasing from the recommendation amount to 2.5 to 5 times that amount. But I think trying to look at Avon corridor holistically to justify other developments being 39% below the maximum density, to justify this one being so much higher, is awfully short-sighted given how much overcrowding we have in the school systems through there and what traffic looks like, certainly in front of Mountain View, but also the entire corridor. And we probably don't see the full impact of that yet because there is still some ongoing development through there. So I'd heavily consider that as you guys continue to evaluate the request. I've got other questions, but I want to let other folks jump in. So thank you, MK. Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you, Sean. Robert?
Yeah, just picking up on what John said, I think the estimate of 6 students is way, way under. And it's unfortunate that David Storm isn't here because I think his experience with schools and the school issues, I think, would be of value. Even if you look at the subdivision yield analysis data that's in the county document, you can estimate that the 6 students, how far under. It's got to be a minimum of at least 14, and it could be well over that. So they've underestimated that by at least 50% in my view. But the main question I want to ask, Kelsey, the plats you submitted with the plan, not shown on your slide, but does show the 10-foot, up to a 10-foot retaining wall on the side of the parking area that faces Avon Street, correct? Because looking at the slope, the topography, looking at contours there, you'd see obviously that to make that a viable parking area, you have to elevate that southeast edge. Is that correct?
Yes, we would need to incorporate a retaining wall along the parking lot.
Okay. So my question, just adjacent to that, you have it was shown on your side, the stormwater management facility, that purple shape. Could you comment on what the nature of that, given that it's going to be even on between the retaining wall and Avon Street? So I'd be interested to know what that's going to look like. Is it surface? Is it subsurface? How is that going to be developed?
Sure. So, I mean, typically in a development like this, we'll use a stormwater strategy that's often used as a combination of underground detention and above ground detention. And so just based on, we have the stormwater management facility shown in that location just because that is, you know, the lowest point, and the water naturally is going to continue along its way, along the ditch, along Avon Street. We haven't fully fleshed out those details at this point, but you know, just depending on the combination of underground detention that may be used in one of the parking areas, then the surface area, whether it's a dry pond, biofilter, however it comes to fruition, that can change, you know, based on the combination of tools utilized to achieve required mitigation.
Yeah, okay, but whatever you utilize there, it's going to be super high visibility because it's going to be right along Avon Street, correct?
Certainly, yeah. Any above ground will be visible from Avon Street. There is, but ultimately, I think I was mentioning the sizing thing, just because depending on the final size, that'll really influence how much you know, screening can be incorporated, and how much landscaping and exactly what that looks like around that facility.
Where would you obtain the fill to place behind the retaining wall to level that slope?
There is, so, I mean, the goal with any site is to balance it the best we can. We've not done any type of formal cut fill analysis on this property. I do, you know, in some places to bring in Hathaway Street, we have to cut in certain locations. And so the ultimate goal is a balanced site, but I don't have further information on a formal cut fill analysis for you at this time.
Okay. And is your, and final question, is that green space that you've shown on your diagram there, is that comparable in total area to the existing rectangular green space that exists along Hathaway in the existing Avon Park development? Is it similar in area?
No, the central green space is not of the same size of what is in the middle of Hathaway Street. I think we've called that out as a, you know, central green space that is, we can, you know, provide a playground, dog park in that area. And there's also an area a little further north that we could provide some type of kind of additional formal amenity. We just called it out in the plan as the central green space to identify that there's adequate area to meet all county requirements for recreational facilities.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I was going to ask at this point.
All right, thank you so much, Robert. Nathan?
Yes, thank you, MK. I think there'll be lots of questions about the entrance, and so I'll let some of the neighboring folks address that. I did want to, the one thing I was curious if we're getting sidewalks down Avon Street, will there be any connector to that sidewalk through the neighborhood, or we're going to have to walk through the existing Avon development to get to the sidewalk? I don't know if there's a way that a trail or paved path can be put in.
Sure, I think that's a really good point. We don't have that shown conceptually on the plan, but I think that you know, residents, if this is a project that moves forward, either, you know, formally, informally, we'll be making a trail regardless between this development and the new sidewalks on Avon Street. And so, you know, point well taken that should be a consideration for pedestrian connectivity on this.
Thank you.
All right. Robbie, would you like to go next?
Sure.
And I also want to say, Robbie, thank you. I think all the committee members here, even though we don't have a vote, we're a part of the community like you and your neighbors. We did receive a copy of your notification and have had a chance to read it. So thank you for that.
Great, great. And other members of our community are submitting comments as well. And my expectation, though I can't see them, my expectation is that there are other members of the Avon Park #1. Now we have 2 and possibly 3, but Avon Park #1 will want to make comments. So let me start with the obvious, which is the Hathaway access. Lots and lots of consternation in our community about that access. We already have more traffic than the neighbors would like, but with the addition of Avon Park 2, which also comes in through Hathaway, we expect and are not looking forward to the increased traffic. In fact, our major concern, aside from just the increased traffic, is that it would be a straightaway for young people and also folks that are using our properties to access the Biscuit Run and Biscuit Run Park. And when additional amenities are added through Parks and Rec to the Biscuit Run, then the addition of folks that don't live in the area is of great concern to our community. So this is something that we oppose, and we will be very vociferous in our opposition to using Hathaway. The other point I'd like to make about Hathaway is the grade coming up from Avon through Arden is the slope is, I would suspect, very similar to what you're expecting to see in Avon Park 3. And so to say you can't use Avon extended as the access, when it would seem, I haven't charted it out, but it would seem that it's very similar to the slope that we currently have. So while I appreciate the fact that the owners of the property have invested time looking for other options, I encourage them to look for other options. So the second point is, of course, and I thank the members of the committee for addressing the school situation. We have a number of teachers in our community, and many of them are out in what in my day we called the bungalows, out in the back. It's overcrowded already, particularly at Mountain View, and also the high school. So I understand that the county did an assessment of the school needs and the populations in the various schools, but we would like to have access to that assessment so that we can prepare for both the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. So let me see here. The other thing that I'd like to raise while we're talking about access through our community to a new community is the fact that we do have a lot of children, and we have actually more dogs than we have children. So the opportunity for the safety of the children, particularly since our dog park and our playground are right along Hathaway. So we have a lot of little people. They like to play on the berm that is between the single family homes and on Hathaway and Tudor. Actually, they're their townhomes, and the single families are along Arden. Very concerned about that because people are walking their animals, walking their children, strolling with their families, and this will make that, which has always been an important amenity for this community, it will make it much more difficult for our community to have the kind of community and neighborhood feel that has been a drawing card for this community since it was built some 15 years ago. Amenities. Ms. Schlein, you mentioned that there might be some amenities. We perhaps missed that on the schematics that you sent out, but we don't see any. And you know, we do have our dog park and we have our playground, and particularly if they're going to be apartments in addition to single family homes, how is that going to be addressed? If we're the only playground around and the access is from our community to the new community, how are we going to deal with that in terms of the safety of children coming from the other community to our playground, the dog park, and so on? It's going to put quite a stress on our little neighborhood, and it's a concern that keeps coming up. Also, you probably all know that we have a water tower. The water tower is at the end of Tudor Court, and of course, it's operated and managed by the Service Authority. And we all have pressure pumps for our homes that were installed at the time that this development was built. And the reason for that is that we have lousy water pressure. And to us, with the addition of Avon 2, which has not been completed, but it's moving right along, and then to put more stress from a third development is very concerning. So we would like to see the Service Authority do an assessment. And you mentioned that both the Service Authority and RWSA are often involved in your committee work, which is much appreciated. But we would like to see an assessment done of what the water situation will be with a third development. We're already suffering. Like I said, we have lousy water pressure. And so we all have these pumps that are noisy and whatnot, but we have to have them. Or as my mother used to say, some showers are like an angel piddling on your shoulder. A lot of our community members find that their water pressure, particularly when they want to wash their hair and take a shower, is lacking for sure. So an assessment by the Service Authority on how this will be impacted would be greatly appreciated. And let me see if there's anything else that I want to. Since you have the copy of the document that I sent, I won't belabor it, but we were very surprised as members of our community on the 10th and 11th, and some on the 12th, got this letter. It was a very hot topic around the dog park, I have to tell you, and not in a pleasant way. So we do hope that as we proceed with the process that there'll be more time. We all know that our Charlottesville postal system is struggling, but if we could have a little more time so we could prepare a little more, that would be terrific. But we do plan to oppose this development as is. So be aware, we're going to be very involved and very active. And the biggest issue for us is no Hathaway.
Thank you so much, Robbie. I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. Next would be Heather Hightower.
Hi, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I appreciate the efforts in this meeting and the organization of this meeting. Thank you so much. Now, I know we're talking about suburban design and not city center design, but one of my favorite TED Talks is James Kunstler's How Bad Architecture Wrecked Cities. And I am failing to see how in Avon Park 3, we are elevating the living experience of Avon Park in general and also Avon Street Extended. So for me, that's a touch point. Where is the sense of place in this? Where is the nature in this? Where is the humanity in this? And the regard for the basics of our humanity, of the volume of dogs, the volume of children. It would just take one easy spin around Tudor to see that this is a place where families go to begin families, get them until we grow out of the area. So I feel like that oversight is aspirational at best with those numbers, and it doesn't inspire confidence in the plan. Hathaway Street is where I live, and we're right in the middle of it. And, you know, people already use it as a raceway, forced to slow down to turn left onto Tudor. If that continues straight away with the extension of both Avon 2 and Avon 3, I don't see that going well, and you would hear my concern in that. And I think, you know, the kind of we tried to get another access point is an unsatisfactory answer, especially with some of these other details that haven't been ironed out or considered. I would say I echo the sentiment that we know the post office is delayed. So I think most of us here would respectfully request that your office plan for that delay versus using deadlines that had a shorter turnaround. I think that would be a gesture of good faith that we would appreciate going forward. And I guess my final comment would be that, you know, in this scenario, it sort of where, as a non-design person, I would kind of enter this stream as saying, with sort of my limited view on your field, that from the outside looking in, most likely you've been tasked with maximizing the profits of this initiative. But I would like to know that if you lived here, how would you design this? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Heather. I realized that I didn't give Kelsey an opportunity to respond to Robbie or Heather. Would you like to do that now, or would you prefer to wait till we hear more comments, Kelsey?
Sure, yeah, I can jump in on a few responses now. Thanks for the opportunity. So I think just a few, I think it's, you know, been well iterated by Robbie and Heather that the kind of main community concern is the access point. That's huge. And so that's heard, and you know, supervisors, commissioners are on here to hear that as well, and so is the county planner. And that's all taken into consideration with the evaluation of this project. As far as the amenities, and Robbie, you didn't miss it, because amenities, they are not fully detailed on a concept plan. That is something where we can provide further detail. We can work through that to provide exhibits to demonstrate how that will all work, but they aren't explicitly shown, just because that's something that's typically worked out at the site plan phase of exactly the specifications and how that works out. As far as the ACSA analysis, we are happy to work with ACSA to provide them with whatever data they need. I think in this particular situation, we haven't been made aware of any capacity issues. I think that that's more of a just a pressure issue, and the fact that the water tank that Avon Park 1 is at a high elevation, and the water tank is at a high elevation. And so you all in that development are receiving some of the lowest pressure from that water tank. But we will be working with ACSA throughout this process, and we'll provide whatever information is requested from them to evaluate this development. I think that as far as the just the design and layout goes, I think that where this design does offer some highlights for sure, as far as just centralizing a green space, the kind of utilizing the ridge for road lines and unit placement. And I will say that Jenny Smith is also a landscape architect, and so she's a designer herself, and has worked through many iterations. We'll keep working through this to get this right. But I just wanted to kind of call attention to some of the highlights of the design and the road connectivity, pedestrian connectivity, creating a sense of enclosure across the street, essential green spaces that are accessed by pedestrian pathways. These are all things that are thought through when laying out a design. And so those are the responses I have for some of the concerns that were raised. And I'll I guess we can go to the next community member. It looks like there's some more hands raised.
MK, so that we don't run out of time, because we have limited time tonight, I would like to ask the rest of the people that have their hand up to try to keep their comments to 3 minutes so that everybody has a chance to talk. So that we don't run real late tonight, if that's okay.
Sure, Carolyn, thank you for the reminder. And I can try to keep an eye on that on my end.
Thank you.
As well. So next is Tara.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Great. Sorry, I'm sitting here trying to put all my thoughts together. I would like to just quickly say I live on Arden, right by Arden and Hathaway. We've been here 11 years. The entire time we've been here, we've been dealing with these kinds of zoning issues. We were told, we looked this up before we moved into our house, that in 2008, the comprehensive plan, and there was a plan already in place for Avon Park 2 was going to be single family homes like our own. And there would be a mix of single family and townhomes. That was then rezoned, and they put, after years and years of dealing with different builders, we now have townhouses right behind us. We are on the only street that has single detached family homes in a community of townhouses. And so I would like to comment that we would like to see a few more single detached family homes in there. As far as zoning, if you look at the comprehensive plan, which I understand is a suggestion, but it's something that we look at when we move in. I know, our board of supervisor representative lives out in the country. That's zoned agricultural. The people who own this property live in an area that's zoned R6. They have plenty of room around them. So I'd like people to think about the fact that we live here. Like Heather said, how would you like it to look when if you were to live here? We have lived with construction, with noise, with building of land, pounding right behind us, with rodent and animal infestation because of the clearing. This has been our life. We're close to retirement. We want to be able to relax a little bit. So when I look at the zoning issue, if you look west of Avon Extended is all R6. 3 to 6 homes per acre. If you look at the triangle between Avon and 20, that has been more designated as industrial and more density. And they've rezoned some of those areas to make them even more dense. East of 20 is not even in the growth plan. And we have fought and we have campaigned and we have done everything to keep that from being further developed because of our schools, because of our infrastructure. But at this point, quite frankly, I'm sick of it all being dumped right in our neighborhood that's being inundated by all these other neighborhoods. We have a few amenities we pay for, but we've got Spring Hill coming over. We've got, now we're going to have Avon Park. We're going to Avon Park 2. I mean, we're living this life. I would like to point out the Smiths are living in Reynovia or wherever, and they don't have to put up with this. So it's fine to be jamming all these things in when you don't live here, but we live here. We would very strongly like to recommend that Hathaway find a way to get to Avon. It does not seem impossible to me. If you did rezone this as 3 to 6 houses per acre, you could fit 21 houses in there. You could fit a road in there. It does not have to be crammed just because everybody else didn't cram them in even tighter than they are. I don't know how you cram any of those Vinity and Spring Hill any tighter than they are, but I'm trying to talk very fast. We're very upset about the amenities, as I said, that our amenities are going to be overcome with more people. The concept of rezoning, when you rezone.
Tara, I'm
Yes.
just gonna let you know that your time expired, but I'll give you a chance to wrap up, okay?
Okay, very quickly, when you're rezoning to R15, our experience is that other builders come in, like this may not happen, and then other builders come in and then they put it even more densely. My biggest concern is construction trucks coming up Arden. So you can say that there's so many houses, so many cars coming in and out, but we have construction trucks that they promised us wouldn't happen up and down Arden all day long. And we're very concerned about that. We're very concerned about the noise level, very concerned about the kids. We've got lots of kids that run back and forth on that street. I won't even get into the whole school thing because other people have addressed it, but it's ludicrous to think that only 6 students are going to come out of 38 homes when you're right across the street from a school. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your comments. Kelsey, did you need to add anything or do you want me to just keep?
Yeah, I mean, if it's okay, can we roll through just so I can receive all of the comments?
Yep.
And then I'll respond, but I would like to hear everything.
Perfect. Shelley?
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Shelley Pellish. I'm at 1644 Hathaway Street, which means I'm in the entrance of phase 3. I'm an original homeowner from 2007, and I've served on the board at the beginning, and dealt with the defunct developers that did Avon Park 1 and tirelessly had to fight for the completion of the roads and the infrastructure that was owed to us. So my question as a financial advisor heading into recession is, I want to know that the developer is financially solvent. And I think that the onus is on the county to make sure that they are able to fulfill the promises if they develop a land, which was not done to us with Avon Park 1. So you've got a community that's 15 years old that has trust issues. And I just want you guys to speak to that. I appreciate the knowledge of Jenny Smith, who's been mysterious to us for 10 years, having bought the land next to us. And the line that was told to us was that she was not going to be a big developer that was going to come next to us, so she wanted to preserve the land. And obviously phase 3 coming, that's not true. So there's another trust issue broken. But I am in agreement with the rest that the reality is that people have garages that they put stuff into and they don't park their cars. They park their cars on Hathaway. And the line about not providing an exit onto Avon, I don't buy, because there's just too much traffic on Hathaway already with Part 2 coming. And I've seen too many near misses between cars and kids over 15 years on Hathaway. So I'm going to end my comments there.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shelley. Next is Chelsea.
Hello. So I am a homeowner on Avon Park 1 as well. So I want to, elevate, I second everything that Robbie has in her statement. I also elevate, what Heather said about this development as it stands right now doesn't elevate a living experience, especially for those of us who are already here. And to be honest, so I'm an educator, and to be honest though, it doesn't take anybody with critical thinking skills to know that 6 students as an estimate from 38 units is drastically undercutting it. So I would really encourage you guys to look at that again, because that's definitely not correct. Secondly, you guys mentioned with your parking, you mentioned lowering even further from the planned parking spaces that you have, which I know Robbie addressed a little bit in her statement that we are already fighting a little bit for parking around here anyway. And then with Biscuit Run, that's going to be a whole other issue. So, you know, we don't need less parking if we're going to have 38 units over there. And then my last statement, which Robbie actually touched on just a little bit, was that 18% grade for Avon Extended to get to Avon Extended, which is what you mentioned. But, you know, I'm curious if you guys figured out or looked at what the grade of Arden Drive is, or even those home driveways, because to be honest, there are single family homes on the land that you're wanting to develop, and they have personal driveways that lead up to their homes with no issue. So I'm finding it a little hard to believe that you couldn't figure out a way to build a road when people have built driveways to their homes. So I would encourage you guys to look at that again. I don't think that it's as big of an issue. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Chelsea. Next we have Miriam.
Hi, my name is Miriam, and I'm on the Homeowners Association with Robbie, and I have been serving for the past 10 years. One of the points that I wanted to bring up also touches upon what Robbie mentioned with respect to the safety of the roads on Arden Drive and Hathaway. Over the course of the past 6 years, I personally have contacted VDOT over 8 times to discuss the dangers of Arden Drive and speeders as it relates to numerous children having almost been hit by cars, drunk drivers over the weekends, strolling down or streaming down Arden Drive. It creates a very, very dangerous situation. And with this community going in without an additional access point to this community is going to put us in a much more greater danger. And it's unfair. It's not right. And, you know, the county, VDOT, you guys owe it to us to create a safe environment for our community and for our families. And, you know, I strongly encourage VDOT to take a look at Arden Drive and really discuss what the dangers are going to be by another added community. I did have VDOT out several years ago to try to look into the dangers of Arden Drive and speeders. You know, we were trying to get a speed bump put in. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough traffic for VDOT to do that. We were told, oh, you know, contact the police department and have the police patrol for traffickers. Obviously, you know, given all of the issues that they're dealing with throughout Albemarle County, they're not going to come, you know, and help Arden Drive out in our community. But this is a very, very significant and serious issue. And so with this new development going in, without having an access road to this development is going to be a non-starter for us. And so I just wanted to express that. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. Next up is Chad.
Hi.
Hi, Chad. We can hear you.
Oh, great. I don't want to say much other than I'm confused mostly by why, if somebody comes forward with like some planning, why it would, you know, why would we would want to deviate from whatever the comprehensive plan is? In other words, why would there would be any strong consideration to change the zoning, which is effectively what Tara was saying. Want to reiterate what she was saying. I think that's really important. And secondly, it seems like there's a great risk that if there was an R15 rezoning approval, that then the developer could change their plan and they could put 54 units in that property, not 38, which they've reiterated would be their maximum number. But it doesn't, I'm not sure how the law works, but I'm guessing that if the approval goes through, then they can do whatever they want within those zoning ordinances. So I don't really see why there would be a need to rezone those the lands over there, especially not to jump by that much. I mean, anyway, that's all I have.
Thanks, Chad. I'm gonna ask Andy if he's listening to, if he can address what you just said, because I think it's important and I had the same question. So if the zoning map amendment is approved at the higher density, they're promising only 38, but can they then come back and do more?
Yes, so with this application, the applicant has provided a proffer statement, which is a list of voluntary commitments that they are committing to with this development. And if the Board of Supervisors chooses to approve this development with this proffer statement, the applicant would be bound to what is in that proffer statement. And at least in the first draft of the proffer statement that was submitted with this application, the applicant has said that they would develop the property in general accord with the concept plan that has been provided. And so on that concept plan, they have done a maximum, they have stated a maximum of 38 units. So with that proffer, they would not be able to go over that maximum of 38 units. Even if the zoning is R15, they would still be bound by that proffer statement, which is also a part of the zoning. They could, however, come back eventually and request to amend that proffer statement to allow for more density. But if they did that, that does require this whole process to go through again with another public hearing with the Planning Commission, another public hearing with the Board of Supervisors, and ultimately would require approval by the board to amend that proffer statement. So that is how they would be limited to just the 38 units that they are proposing, is that that's in the concept plan that they are proffering. And the proffer statement would be part of what the board is looking at and voting on with this application.
Thank you very much, Andy. I know that took extra time, but I think it's worth it for folks to understand how that works. Next is Steve.
Hi, thanks for taking my time for listening to the area residents. We're county residents for 25 years here in Mill Creek South. And looking at this plan, I don't want to go over the same issues, but obviously the parking is insufficient. With no amenities, it's going to have a big negative impact on Avon 1 because these amenities will be shared. Looking over this student load at 6 students for this development, it is a dubious number at best. And with 5 new high density areas that are being constructed right here, the load on the schools has not even been close to being realized yet, but it will be. And the students are already in trailers, which is just not right. Obvious problems with the traffic and the access through Hathaway. It's clearly going to be an issue for everyone in this area. Water pressure issues. The zoning currently at R1, may not be in line with the plan, but that's what it's zoned for. And when we moved here at this side of town, it was single family homes, suburban area. And when you look around the area now, it's like driving through a concrete canyon. This looks like city. The urban area is being brought out into the suburbs. This is not what it was zoned for when we started 25 years ago. And it's really unfair to the local residents who bought in based on how the area was planned. We realized it was a growth area, but not an urban one. If you've driven down Avon, you can see the buildings come right up on the street and it blocks the view and it just doesn't fit with the local area. So we're being inundated with this high density construction, and it's really destroying the look and the feel of the south side, and it's not fair to the local area residents. And ultimately, the cost of the infrastructure are going to be borne by the local taxpayers, and that's what happens when we add higher density, and that's just unfair. So thanks for my consideration. I would also reiterate to short notice to the local residents is also kind of dubious, and that would be nice if we had more notice on these meetings and such. So thank you for your time. Appreciate your listening.
Thank you, Steve. Rebecca, you're next.
Hi. I live in Avon Park. I live on Tudor Court. And this proposed development will be built directly behind my home, ruining the vegetation, which was one of the reasons why I purchased the home. I was very shocked to receive this letter and the plan to ruin the neighborhood overall. I just publicly wanted to express my opposition to this proposed development and show my support for the Avon Park community, and that I plan to participate in future meetings and sharing my opposition. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Next is Jay.
Okay, well, I live at 1632 Hathaway. First, I would like to say that I personally know of 6 school-age children just on Hathaway. That's just off the top of my head. I might be missing somebody, but there's at least 6 right there. That doesn't include Arden or Tudor, which suggests that figure of 6 is rather fanciful. I would suggest that since these engineering folks can perform the great feat of making that parking lot where it is drawn, that if they reduced the density of Avon Park 3, or whatever you want to call this, to the specified density, that they would be able to engineer a road in lieu of that parking lot as it's drawn, to make a safe entrance, second entrance onto Avon Street. I share the concerns that everybody else has mentioned, but I wanted to say that to claim that you can't make an entrance, that's just because you want to maximize the number of units that you put on that piece of land. It's not because it's an engineering impossibility, and that is evident. So that is my main comment here. But the comments concerning schools and the amenities, parking, etc., safety certainly are all valid concerns that I share. Thanks.
Thank you, Jay. Okay, I have 2 more people by my count, and then we're going to try to wrap up and move on to the next item on our agenda after Kelsey has a chance maybe to answer or make a final statement. James?
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is James St. Hill. I live on Arden Drive. And I echo the sentiments that many have stated. More specifically, I speak to the traffic that goes up and down Arden, the intersection where it hits Hathaway. It gets very dicey. There's a stop sign, but people do a sort of rolling stop through there. Coming out of the sort of an alley where I live on Arden, and I've been hit. I've almost been hit several times because there's a curve on Arden. So you've got to be very intentional about making sure there's no one speeding like a bat out of you know what coming up Arden. And that's not going to get better with this additional development. With regard to the engineering feat of building a road with direct access from that proposed 3 onto Avon Extended, I agree. I don't think it's an engineering feat. I think it's a dollars issue. And I get people want to maximize their money, but the reality is that we all live here. So we don't really care about them maximizing their return. We care about the quality of life here at Avon Park 1. And this is not going to help it at all. And I could go into various other points, but they've all been said, and I think rather eloquently said. But this is a very questionable project, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, James. Dennis? Dennis, you're on mute. I can't see you, so I'm not sure if you're talking, but you are permitted to talk now if you have something you'd like to add. All right, I think we may have lost Dennis. Oh, Dennis? Hello?
Dennis, are you there? Okay, he's unmuted, but
Not speaking.
we can't hear him.
Okay, Dennis.
He'll have another opportunity to speak when it goes before the planning commission or the board as well.
All right, thank you so much. Kelsey, I have a few comments as well. They're brief. Do you want me to go first or do you want to go first?
Sure. I'll let you go, MK.
Okay. On the proffer statement, I read it a couple times. I'm not really seeing much in there except for the affordable housing piece. Am I missing something other than that? I mean, I really just saw that you're gonna adhere to the 15% and that's your proffer.
Sure. So we did provide the first proffer reads that the property shall be developed in general accord with the concept plan and shall reflect the following major elements as shown and noted on the plans: the internal street network, the residential density, the building height, and the setbacks as noted on the concept plan. And so that's where, you know, any draft proffer, this is just a draft at this point. And so this is something that's reviewed by the county attorney's office. If they feel something is unclear, you know, that can be clarified at a future date. But the intent in saying the major element of the plan and calling out specifically the density, which on the plan says max 38, is to commit to that.
Sure, but there's no what I would call sort of real monetary thing here, right? Like you're not agreeing to improve Hathaway in its current existing state or add a roundabout, or I know that's ridiculous, but something like that. You're not really adding anything. You're just saying you're going to agree to these certain parameters.
Sure. In this initial proffer, there was nothing presented because we hadn't had VDOT comprehensive review yet, and we hadn't had transportation planning comprehensive review. And so when all those departments and entities review, they identify impacts and bring that up to an applicant. And at this time, we don't have those comments as of yet.
Great. And then is there no requirement by VDOT for there to be an emergency access of some kind other than the single access? I know in my community, there are several emergency accesses where a fire truck could get in if they needed to. Is that going to happen here?
Yeah, so that's more so of a fire code requirement rather than a VDOT requirement. And so we'll get, if there's any, you know, concerns between getting a fire apparatus within 150 feet of every corner of every building, that's a comment that will be brought up with the fire marshal review.
Okay. And lastly, this is more of a, well, I definitely think you need the amenities. You know, I don't live in Avon Park, but I do live in a community that's recently developed with no amenities. And I live adjacent to the Redfields community. And everyone from my neighborhood walks to Redfields and uses their amenities. So I think it's important that you make sure that that's included. I also, for the supervisors here, just as far as the schools go, I mean, you know, we're doing the comprehensive plan. I think it's really important that we increase density in very select areas in the county, because we really do need affordable housing, and not just the kind that's proposed in this proffer, but we need more housing in order to make housing affordable for folks in Albemarle County, period. And the only way to get a lot more housing is to have well thought out development. But we have to have schools before that. And so I know David wanted me to impress upon the supervisors this as well, but we really need action on a school in south side Charlottesville. So thank you. Kelsey, did you have anything else you wanted to say in relation to other comments or?
Sure, yeah, I mean, I think I'll just speak to the entrance aspect. I think in presenting the entrance and the challenges faced, I never meant to convey that it was it was necessarily impossible. The constraints that we're working against are the fact that the existing Hathaway Street, the grade is already set. We have to tie into that grade to meet VDOT standards. That grade is 40 feet above the lowest point on our property where we could tie in. That's so, and it is difficult to, VDOT ideally would not want to see a road in excess of 10%. And so that's what we're working with. I think I believe the existing Arden Drive is at that max 10%. And so I'm sorry if it came off that it was impossible. I never meant to convey that. That is, certainly something to be considered. It is just difficult given the grade in front of this property, the established grade of Hathaway Street. And additionally, the consideration that any future interparcel connection with the properties to the north and the honestly, the ideal location for that entrance of Hathaway Street for its intersection with Avon would be compromised if the entrance was put on this site. So those are all the considerations that we're just taking into account in designing this. And I just wanted to, I guess, clarify that a little bit.
All right, thank you. James, I think you were next, and then Robert, and then we are going to move on to the next item.
Yeah, thanks, MK. I want to sort of acknowledge as valid all of the concerns and criticisms I've heard here tonight. I definitely think 6 is a gross underestimate of the number of students that'll be going to Mountain View. My kids will go to Mountain View when they're old enough. I think a second entrance is essential, and it's good to hear that that's a possibility. But because I can't help it, I wanted to play devil's advocate a little bit and just say there's a real housing shortage, and certainly an affordable housing shortage in Albemarle County. And the idea that like, hey, this can't happen in my backyard because it's going to be increased traffic on my street, you're essentially saying it's got to be somebody else's problem. It's happening somewhere. Albemarle County is getting bigger. It's projected to grow by 40% by the year 2040. We've got to do it intelligently and do it in a smart way. But we can't just say we're not doing it. That parcel is going to get developed, and I think this is an opportunity to develop it in the right way and develop it intelligently. And this is the process by which we do that. But I don't think we get to say we don't grow in my backyard. It's going to happen to all of us. It's coming for us. So let's just weigh in constructively and figure out how we can do this that benefits the community in the best way. Thanks, MK.
Well said, James. Thank you. Robert?
Yeah, the question I had for Mr. Riddleback is about the proffer, the affordable housing proffer. When I read through that proffer, that section of the proffer, there were a lot of conditions and timing. 60 days related to the certificate of occupancy, 90 days notice. And then it referred to, if you deducted those two, it referred to a 30-day window in which the county authority could propose potentially a buyer or an occupant for that affordable unit. Are those type of time constraints typical of any sort of affordable housing proffer? Because it appears that for some reason that the county doesn't meet a very narrow time constraint, then the developer is free of the obligation to make that an affordable unit. So I'm wondering how common are those types of time boundaries? And appreciate your comments on that.
Certainly. So the county does have a general template of language for affordable housing, proffers or statements, that sort of thing. And for any rezoning like this, our principal planner for housing, Stacy Pathia, she does review these and ensures that the language is in conformance with the general template. And so I can't say for right now whether what is being proposed in this specific proffer follows that general template and is consistent with the county's usual language, but I will say that there are often timelines and that sort of thing. But this proffer will be reviewed by Stacy, and she will provide any comments as part of the review as well.
Kelsey, maybe you can tell us whether or not what you wrote in the proffer was based on the county template?
Sure. Yes, it was based on the county template.
Okay.
and similar
these,
offers adopted for other projects. Yes.
so these time constraints are typical.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And,
I'd like to add.
Sorry,
I'd just like
Karen.
to, yeah, let me just add to that really quick. I'm always just here to listen because I'll get my chance on the planning commission. But just quickly, yes, what they proposed is typical. There's nothing that prevents them from offering more time. But they are following the guidelines. The planning commission and the board had a concern for a while that we were missing out on making the match up between people who needed affordable housing and the units that were available, because it's really hard to keep track of all them. And the county has initiated as participating in a regional clearinghouse to help better match all the people who want affordable housing through various programs into these developments as they come available. So I believe that the county and the city will be doing a better job on this. However, it's too soon to tell. We've asked in the planning commission for Stacy to come and give us an update on how well this is working, because that is a real concern that these units are proffered and they slip through the cracks. And we did get an accounting from her on how many we kind of lost out on over the years. So it is a concern and something that we're paying very close attention to.
And so, Karen, we're talking specifically about for sale units, not rental units, when we're talking about those timelines, I believe.
Yeah.
And so if it does not meet this timeline, this 90-day or whatever, and they take it out and they sell it at market rate, then it just is a market rate unit. It's no longer, it can't come back into the affordable pool.
Unless the owner wants to.
Right. The next
servant.
Yeah. And then I will say, just as an example here, people may not be aware, there's a unit that's for sale at Spring Hill. That's one of the affordable units that's been on the market now for a couple months. It's not, clearly they haven't made the match. It's still listed. So I just find that interesting information when you're thinking about those timelines. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you, everyone who attended from Avon Park and from the community. We really appreciate your input. And we will, I'm sure, be revisiting this. Well, you can revisit it at the next meeting when it makes it to the Planning Commission.
Can I put up my email address one last time for everyone, just in case they want to copy that down?
Thank you.
Yeah, and MK, I'll reiterate, we're happy to come back after the resubmittal is made and speak again. I understand that the mailing notices arrived late, and so we're always happy to keep people updated on the status of things.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And we do get notification as well, and so I can stay in touch with folks at Avon Park as well and let them know if we hear of something, but I'm sure they'll be on the mailing list. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move to updates from our Board of Supervisors and Planning Commissioners. Who would like to go first?
I'll just go ahead and go. First off, I want to thank Commissioner Firehawk for her commentary just then about the efforts to improve the waiting list for the for sale units for affordable housing. That has been a problem in the county, as you know, and we are working to try and improve it. I also want to talk briefly about the schools, and I do not want in any respect my commentary to be pointing fingers at the other boards, because the school board makes certain decisions. The Board of Supervisors makes other decisions. During our budget that we just approved, we did approve through the capital improvement plan funding for 3 additional schools in the county, and it's really up to the school board to determine where they go. One of the proposals that has been talked about is a very small, I think 6 acres in Southwood, and there's a serious question as to whether that's a sufficient size land for another elementary school. But I hear very loud and very clear the commentary that has come from many sources, in particular about the overcrowding at Mountain View. And so I am listening, I'm paying attention, and I will be continuing to work on that. I also want to point out that as as you have, Chair MK, as you've gone through this, we've got an application, we have community meetings. There are usually going to be modifications. There might be other community meetings, the Planning Commission modifications. Eventually, something will come to the board. And that's the point where I'll make my decision on things. But I know Supervisor Andrews and we listen very, very closely to the information that comes up in these meetings. And as I know the commissioners do on the Planning Commission, to help us make the best decisions we can. I really appreciate some of the comments, Mr. Cathro, for yours. We do have to have density in our development area. And there is an interplay, and sometimes there's an apparent inconsistency between zoning, the comprehensive plan. But, you know, we do, as a county, we have a 95%, 5% split, 5% development area, 95% rural. And if we do not fill to a reasonable degree of high density in the development area, we will fill the development area sooner, which means we have to expand into the rural area, and then we're looking at sprawl. So it is that balance that we're always trying to come up with. We are not going to have a Board of Supervisors meeting on July 6th. Just as a reminder to everyone, we're giving the county a break. So we literally have a month basically that county staff will be able to work in their vacation, which they have earned through the last 2 years of the pandemic. And while not in the close proximity to 5th and Avon, I do want to briefly talk about the Woodridge solar application. It's 2,500 acres, literally in my backyard, so to speak. My house is a mile from where it's proposed. 2,500 acres, about 638 will actually have solar panels on it. The rest of it will be returned more to woodland rather than pine tree forest. I'm not saying I approve of that right now, but that's the proposal that is coming forward. There are a lot of good things about it. There are some other areas that, of course, we have concerns and we have to look at. And again, I'll wait to make a final decision when it finally reaches the board. But I would encourage you to pay attention, and if you have an opportunity to participate in those community meetings as well. And I think that's most of what I have right now. We did approve last night a revision to the Albemarle Business Campus over on 5th Street Extended, looking to make that more towards a high-tech medical development proposal. And we talked a little bit about panhandling. We went back to staff and said we'd like to have some additional work done in terms of methods to do within constitutionally permissible ordinance regulations, improve safety, both for those who may be panhandling as well as reducing the anxiety that people may have when people come up to them to panhandle. We talked about our legislative priorities, which again is to try and decriminalize minor offenses, work towards improving safety at agricultural buildings, barns that are being used for events, and also stream health protections for agricultural and forestal. And with that, I'll turn it over to Supervisor Andrews, who will cover things that I may not have done in my efforts to be very quick. Thank you.
That was pretty thorough. Thank you, Supervisor Price. I will add that the first meeting on the solar facility for the agricultural forestal district actually will be on July 6th. And that's coming up. That's just based on the fact that it's adjacent to an agricultural forestal district property. The general announcement I think I may have made last time, but a lot of people weren't here, is that we go back to in-person CAC meetings in September. So we can all look forward to an opportunity to be together in a room. Otherwise, just as Supervisor Price said, you know, there are issues with trying to figure out how to keep that 95-5 split. And if you want more on that, there was a significant discussion at the June 1st meeting on the build out potential of the current development areas under the current comprehensive plan, where staff were able to show that based on population projections, if we built out fully at the comprehensive plan densities, we would probably be able to accommodate the population growth without any trouble. But historically, we have not been building out fully with projects. And yeah, this is another example here. And it's, there's a big gap between them. And so we have to be aware as we see projects come in less than full build out, which may be appropriate, that puts pressure elsewhere. We'll see. There are trade-offs. How many people will come if we haven't built? So that's all I can add. Thanks. Karen?
Thanks. Yes, I was just trying to get my email up so I can see the comprehensive plan update. So I don't have any updates from the Sam Miller District for the growth area. Fred Missel, your commissioner for the Fifth and Avon, is actually traveling this evening. So I will do my best. He and I are going to get together when he gets back, and I will give him a verbal update of what I heard tonight, just so he's primed as this development we heard about comes forward. The only other thing I'll add is that I hope everyone's following the updates of the comprehensive plan, which of course, is going to be very important as we continue to grow and develop. And there's an in-person open house at the county office building on 5th Street on Wednesday, June 22nd from 5:30 to 7 o'clock. So that would be an opportunity to participate in person if you guys want to. And then, of course, you can certainly contact the county staff through the website to get regular emails and updates to yourself on what's going on. But the first thing that they're working on is really growth management. And there was a few statements made by some, I'll just say, activist organizations that the Planning Commission had discussed expanding the growth area. We did not discuss expanding the growth area. We asked about whether there was adequate information available about site constraints and road access in schools that would help us understand if we really had enough room to accommodate all the growth within the urban ring. So we actually sent staff to gather more nuanced data so that we could have better information. And the last thing I'll say is that, I know I said I was going to say one more thing, I'll be quick, is, we are going to continue to see difficult sites presented for infill development because for obvious reasons, but I'll say it anyway, all the easy sites have been developed pretty much. So we kind of have steep slope sites and sites with stream crossings and sites where it's difficult to access with water and sewer. So not to say that that's an excuse, but it just means we're going to just have to take extra care as we look at these sites. But safety is paramount in the decisions that the Planning Commission makes and recommends to the board. So, I take to heart all of the comments this evening, and you guys should feel always welcome to contact myself anytime you want to ask a question, and also to get on Andy Reidelbach's email list for various sites, because he'll keep you up to date when there's anything new to know. So thanks for that. And I appreciate that the county helped me get underground internet, because in the past the lightning would have just knocked me right offline. But thanks to battery backup, I hung in with you even though we ran out of power. So I'll stop for now. Thanks.
Oh, and MK Bateau Festival, Scottsville next Wednesday, and July 4th parade on Saturday the 2nd, 9 o'clock.
Thank you, Donna, and thank you, Karen. And Karen, hearing your comments about the, difficulties with infill, I think does raise the question about whether we need to expand the development area just a little bit eventually. All right. So I think that concludes the portion of our agenda. And if there's no other business for this evening or any other comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thanks, Craig.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there.
Thank you.